So today we went over the quiz. Remember, if you need to retake a quiz, come during tutoring time. We try to do it in class when we can, but it's this one before or after school. Please. Today you grabbed a paper and a protractor because we are going to do some notes on using a protractor. So you should have this sheet. Okay. And one second. There we go. All right, so you have this sheet right here, and you should have this tool. If I can pick it up. Right there. All right. So, how many of y'all know how to use a protractor already? Oh. So, not everyone does, and even if you think you do, let's make sure you do, okay? So, here's the deal. I want to take this protractor and measure this angle. The first thing I want to do is be observant. So, looking at this protractor, what do you notice is on here? Okay, so there's a little circle right here. There's a line at the bottom. It looks like half a circle. Okay, the bottom's like a ruler, and there's all these numbers on the edge, right? What number does it go up to? 180, just like a straight line, okay? So it kind of makes sense that for a, for something that measures angles, you know, maxes out at 180 at a straight line, okay? So it kind of makes sense. So this is our tool to do that. If you're in my classroom right now, you can see that I've got a mega protractor up here. It is a weapon of math instruction. Ha ha ha. That's how big it is. All right. So we're going to use a small one, obviously. This one was for like chalkboards back in the day, which actually was before I started teaching, so I'm not that old. But here we go. There are some steps to doing this correctly. Let's talk about it. First thing we want to do is line it up. Okay, so when I say line it up, there's kind of two ideas. First thing is the hole in the protractor needs to be lined up on this, what we call the vertex of the angle. Okay, so line up the hole on the vertex. But as you can see right here, if I can line it up, it's not going to be enough. See how if I put that hole on the vertex, do you see right here what I'm pointing to? These lines are not lined up. These lines need to be lined up. So it's kind of like two parts to that. You line up this hole on the vertex while you rotate it, and you line up the line. So that's your second step right here. Line up the lines. Okay, so that's my best attempt at doing that. As you can see, this one tends to be right on the money. But has everyone done this, right? So I want to see your protractors on there. You've lined up the hole in the vertex. The lines are lined up where you can't even tell there's two lines. They're just so lined up. Now, here's the deal. We're trying to measure this angle. On your protractor, I want you to notice there's always two numbers. There's the numbers on the inside. There's the numbers on the outside, right? So the question is, which ones are right, the outside or the inside? It depends, okay? There's not one size fits all. I always want you to think critically about what you're doing. So look at that original angle. Is that original angle acute or obtuse? The original angle is less than 90. It's acute. So that means when I'm looking right here at these numbers, which one should I use? The acute number, the one that makes sense with the picture. Less than 90, I'm going to use 40. Now, how many of y'all, when you lined it up, you had it like a little bit more or less than 40? Okay. And I'm going to say it's okay to be a little bit off, okay? These are like little small lines. Sometimes you're a hair off. There's kind of a 2-unit window that I'd allow as a correct answer. But you always want to be as careful as you can lining it up. So in this case, we're gonna put the classification and the measure. So the classification we already said was acute, and the measure was 40 degrees. Double check. Okay. We did it. Okay, so we got an acute angle that's 40 degrees. So our steps were line up the hole, make sure the line is lined up. And I think your third step, if I had to give you a third step, is to think about it. Okay? Now that's generic, but that just means think about, is it acute or obtuse? Which one makes the most sense? And count it correctly. Okay? So let's try it again, but this time let's do something that's not acute. Okay? So let's look at this big one right here. Okay? On this big one right here, it's kind of hard to see. Make sure you have the vertex labeled like that. There's my vertex, right? So I want to line up my hole on that vertex. And now I want you to notice, look right here. There's two ways to do this. I could line it up on the left like this and measure over here. Or I could line it up on the right over here and measure over here. There's more than one way to measure, left or right, either way. So I'm going to do it different from last time. I'm going to line it up on the right side. Okay, so now that we are lined up, let's answer the same question as before under think. Let's think about it. What kind of angle is this? Obtuse. Am I going to use greater or less than 90 number? Greater than 90, okay? So looking at this, I am not going to use 22 or something like that, right? That would make no sense. So I'm going to use the one that looks like it's about 2 units next to 160. So here's my question. This looks like it's 2 away from 160. Do you think that that is 162 or 158? How can you tell? Okay. Exactly. So you want to be very careful. That's part of the thinking thing. Okay. So look, see how this says 160, and right here this says 150. It's between 160 and 150. Newsflash: 162 is not between those two numbers, right? So we knew that. So we have to count and make sure we're thinking about which way we're counting, right? So again, between 150 and 160, go down 2. That's 158. That's what I got for my obtuse angle, 158. Now, if you got 157 or 159, that is okay, because there's some margin of human error. But I want you to try these two, okay, top right, bottom left. I'll give you a couple minutes, so I want you to try that right now, and then we'll go over them together. All right, so on the top right, what did y'all get? I hear 25. Okay. So let me put it over here. Yeah. So if we line this up, okay, so the way I have it right now is a little bit off of 25, but I measured it earlier and I got 25, so let's reposition it. Yep, it's basically 25, okay? So it's right smack in the middle of 20 and 30. Hopefully no one put 35 because that would be one of those errors we want to avoid, okay? So 25, and we're going to put acute. Okay, that was the top right. And then on the bottom here, is that obtuse or acute? What do you think? Okay, so it is obtuse because it's greater than 90. If you're not sure about that, you could always, one way to tell is if you can take a corner of a sheet of paper and it's more than that, then it's more than 90, okay? But that's just kind of a life hack. All right, let's do this. We're going to line it up, center it. Okay. Now, since it's obtuse, I'm not going to be telling you the answer is 72 or 3 because that's crazy. Okay, it's obtuse, more than 90. So this is between 110 and 100. So it can't be 112, can't be 113 because that's over here. Okay. So notice what it's between. So what would this be? 107 or 108, depending on what you got. So if you put 108, that's great. Okay. But I'm going to put 107, obtuse. There's a margin of error. But if you put 102, I would actually mark that wrong only because I want you to think about what it's between. Okay? That's too far off. So flip it over. We can also use a protractor to make angles. Okay? So we're going to do a very similar process. So look at number 1. We're going to make a 45-degree angle. We are going to line it up again on the edge of that ray. So, say when I let go, it messes up. All right, so I've got this ray lined up, and I want to measure 45 degrees. So since I know it's acute, it's going to be over here, between 40 and 50. I want you to put a little mark right at 45. Okay? Hopefully you can see that mark. All I have to do now is take the straight edge of my protractor, this straight part right here that looks like the ruler, and line it up. So I'm going to line up my protractor from this point I just drew to the end point of that ray that I was centered on. And I'm going to make myself a line. I just created a 45-degree angle using a protractor. Okay? And again, we think about it. Does it make sense? Does that look acute, like a 45-degree angle? Yes, it does. So that's good for me. Okay? Now, what about number 2? 135 is greater than 90. It's obtuse. So let's line it up just like we did last time. Okay? So I'm lined up. Now, remember how we said there's always 2 numbers? And that means that every angle is on there twice. So I know this says 135, and you could think there's 135, right? But think about it. If you go from this end point of the ray to 135, that is going to give you an acute angle, okay? So again, we want to think things through. So let's find the other 135 that's going to make it an obtuse angle. So on the left-hand side here, here's 130, here's 140. So 135 will be right there. Let's make a little mark, enough to see. And then all I got to do is connect the end point of the ray to that point I just made. And now I have an obtuse angle, 135. It's okay if they overlap because all I want to see is the angle. So 45, 135, that's good. So I want you to try the last two, and that'll be good for our protractor lesson. Again, after today, I want you to be able to measure and make angles using a protractor. So let me give you a couple minutes to try 3 and 4. Okay, so I think we've got it. Let's talk about number 3, 31 degrees. Make sure we've all got it right. So of course it's acute. So you're looking for an angle that's less than 90 when you make it. So 31, hopefully, let's put this on the screen here. Hopefully you remember 31 has to be between 30 and 40. So 31 is this little tick mark right here. I'm going to use the outside where I can actually see the tick mark, okay, for 31. And then I connect it to the end point. Okay, there's my 31 degree angle. And then number 4 for 163. Again, we got to be careful with obtuse. It's got to be greater than 90. So I'm not going to mark it here. I'm going to mark it over here at 163. 1, 2, 3. So from here to here. Okay. So, real quick. Mrs. Marrero. So, we finished these notes. You should be able to measure an angle, construct an angle, and in the coming days we're going to be constructing segments and angles and bisecting them, okay? So this was kind of the first hint of constructions, okay? So, make sure you've turned in the assignment from yesterday as well.